And checking. Yes, we are online. Sure. Yes, we are online. Okay, good. Everything's working. I'm back to Zoom. Here we go. Okay. Nice to see everybody again. Welcome to the evening or morning program, depending where you are in the world. All right, and we're going to use the harmonium today and chant Dainya O Prapati. It's a little loud. I think it's pretty loud. Hari Hey Jaya Namura Jaya Radha Hari Hey Jaya Namura Jaya Radha Toma Vina Keho. Let me just turn this on. I have something that was off. Okay. Toma Vina Keho Nahira Say Hari Hey Jai Halamora Jaya Rana Baru Baru Hey Baru Rahu Jasa Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Srila Prabhupada Haribo 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 Jai Haribo Haribo Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paramahamsacharya Alstatena Sitashi Shivad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalanad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prabhase Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasudhi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopa Gopinathayam Kund Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuradam Ki Jai Jagadasami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarane. So, today we're going to continue with our reading of Krishna Book. Actually, today is the appearance day of Sri Padmaavachari. I just remembered. And I gave class this morning about Sri Padmaavachari. Well, maybe we should speak about Sri Padmaavachari. Or actually, if you want to, okay. And it's also Ram Vijay, the celebration of the victory of So anyway, so maybe we should speak about those subject matters today, which I spoke about this morning. However, it bears talking about again. So, or maybe we should read Krishna Book. All right, let's read Krishna Book. Yeah, let's read Krishna Book because basically the reason I'm saying that is because if anyone wants to hear my class, which would pretty much be a repeat of this morning's class. Oh, let me turn the sound up. Yes. The sound would definitely be low. Hold on a second. Sound. Oh, it's really low. Okay, this should be better. Sorry about that. Because when I was chanting real loud, it adjusted the sound down. So, anyway, today is Ram Vijay, the victory celebration of Lord Ramchandra. Just briefly, I'm going to mention Om Ganata Miranda Shagananjana Shlakaya Chakshur and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So as I mentioned before, today is the commemoration of Ram Vijay, the victory of Lord Ram over Ravan. And this is a very important day in the Vaishnava calendar. And we have to deal with the demons in our own heart and somehow or other have victory. What are the demons in our own heart? Lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, fear. So, these are the demons in our own hearts. And then we have to conquer them. How do we conquer them? By the mercy of the pure devotees, by chanting the Lord's holy names and remaining fixed in our sadhana. So, we have to really work at it. It's described that Balaram, yes, he's the original spiritual master, and he gives one the strength to deal with the anarthas, but one has to make the endeavor. So, Ram Vijay Kijai. Also, it is the appearance day or celebration of the appearance day of Sri Padmaavachari. Who was Sri Padmaavachari? Sri Padmaavachari is considered to be the third manifestation of the sons of Vayu. Vayu is the wind god, and the sons of Vayu are Hanuman, Bhimsen, and Madhvacharya. And Madhvacharya was based basically in Udupi, although he traveled all over India preaching Krishna consciousness, and especially went to Badarik Ashram, what's called Uttara Badari. Uttara Badari means the highest levels of Badarik Ashram. And he met with Srila Vyasadeva, and first he showed Srila Vyasadeva his Gita commentary. It's called the Gita Bhasha. And then he went back again, second time to meet with Srila, on the Mahabharata called the Tatparata Nirnaya. And that commentary is famous. And then he basically preached all over India, defeated so many Mayavadis and personalists, Buddhists, who actually ran away rather than argue with him. You know, they met with him one day and they said, well, let's have the argument tomorrow, and then they disappeared. And some of the people who wanted to argue with him, especially impersonalists, stole his books so that he wouldn't have the books to refer to, but still he was able to defeat them, and those people later got arrested by the king, Jayasingha. That means the victorious lion king. So, anyway, and Madhvacharya, very strong. He used to wrestle with his disciples. He encouraged his disciples to engage in healthy physical culture so they could remain strong, serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So today is the commemoration of his appearance, as well as Ram Vijay. Now we'll go on to the Krishna Book. Okay, so let us share the screen so we can go on to Krishna Book. Here we go. And I wanted to get to this part of the Krishna book because it's a really amazing part, famous part. It's the delivery of the message of Krishna to the Gopis. And of course, that message was delivered by Uddhava. Uddhava looks almost like Krishna. He is Krishna's cousin. He's the son of Vasudev's brother. And he was very intimate with Krishna and gave advice even to Krishna. And Krishna sent him to Vrindavan to console the residents of Vrindavan. And first he consoled Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai. That was the previous chapter. And in this particular chapter, he's delivering Krishna's message to the most dear Gopis. So, let us continue. When the Gopis saw Uddhava, they observed that his features almost exactly resembled those of Krishna. And they could understand that he was a great devotee of Krishna's. His arms were very long and his eyes were just like the petals of a garland of lotus flowers. His face was very beautiful. Having achieved the liberation of Sarupya, Sarupya means having the same form as the Lord, and thus having the same bodily features as the Lord, Uddhava looked almost like Krishna. In Krishna's absence, the Gopis had been coming dutifully to visit Mother Yashoda's house early in the morning. They knew that Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda were always grief-stricken, and they had made it their first duty to come and pay their respect to the most exalted elder personalities of Vrindavana. Seeing the friends of Krishna, Nanda Yashoda would remember Krishna himself and be satisfied, and the Gopis also would be pleased by seeing Nanda and Yashoda. When the Gopis saw that Uddhava was representing Krishna, even in his bodily features, they thought he must be a soul completely surrendered unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They began to contemplate, who is this boy who looks just like Krishna? He was a little younger than Krishna. He has the same eyes like lotus petals, the same raised nose and beautiful face, and he is smiling in the same way. In all respects, he resembles Krishna, Shamashundra, the beautiful blackish boy. He is even dressed exactly like Krishna. Where does this boy come from? Who is the fortunate girl who has him for her husband? Thus they talked among themselves. They were very anxious to know about him, and because they were simple, unsophisticated village girls, they surrounded Uddhava. Now, they knew he wasn't Krishna. It's not exactly like Krishna. When the Gopis understood that Uddhava had a message from Krishna, they became very happy and called him to a secluded place and offered him a nice sitting place. They wanted to talk with him very freely and did not want to be embarrassed before unknown persons. They welcomed him with polite words and great submissiveness. We know that you are a most confidential associate of Krishna, and that he has therefore sent you to Vrindavan to give solace to his father and mother. We can understand that family affection is very strong. Even great sages who have taken to the renounced order of life cannot give up family affection cent per cent. Sometimes they think of their family members. Krishna has therefore sent you to his father and mother, otherwise he has no further business in Vrindavan. He is now in town. What does he have to know about Vrindavan village or the cows' pasturing grounds? These are not at all useful for Krishna, because he is now a man of the city. Surely, let me just make sure the volume is all right on it. It tends to reset itself sometimes. Let me put up a little higher. Okay. Surely he has nothing to do with persons who do not happen to be his family members. Friendships with those outside the family continue as long as there is some selfish interest in them. Otherwise, why should one bother about those outside the family? Specifically, a person attached to the wives of others is interested in them as long as there is a need of sense gratification. Just as bumblebees have interest in flowers as long as they want to take the honey out of them. It is psychologically very natural that a prostitute does not care for her paramour as soon as he loses his money. Similarly, when the citizens find that a government is incapable of giving them full protection, they leave the country. Of course, that's happening in a particular country right now. A student, after finishing his education, gives up his relationship with the teacher and the school. A priest, after taking his reward from the worshiper, gives him up. When the fruit season is over, the birds are no longer interested in the tree. Just after eating in the house of a host, the guest gives up his relationship with him. After a forest fire, when there is a scarcity of green grass, deer and other animals give up the forest. And so a man, after enjoying his girlfriend, gives up his connection with her. In this way, all the gopis indirectly accuse Krishna by citing many examples. They were accusing Krishna of being self-centered. So, of course they understood he wasn't. Uddhava understood that the gopis of Vrindavan were all simply absorbed in the thought of Krishna and his childhood activities. While talking about Krishna with Uddhava, they forgot all about their household business. They even forgot about themselves, as their interest in Krishna increased more and more. One of the gopis, namely Srimati Radharani, was so much absorbed in thoughts of Krishna by dint of her personal touch with him that she actually began to talk with the bumblebee, which was flying there and trying to touch her lotus feet. While other gopis were talking with Krishna's messenger, Uddhava, Srimati Radharani took that bumblebee to be a messenger from Krishna and began to talk with it as follows. Bumblebee, you are accustomed to drinking honey from flower to flower, and therefore you have preferred to be a messenger of Krishna who is of the same nature as you. I can see on your mustaches the red powder of kumkum which was smeared on the flower garland of Krishna while it was pressed against the breast of some girl who is my competitor. You feel very proud because of having touched that garland, and your mustaches have become reddish. You have come here carrying a message for me, anxious to touch my feet. But my dear bumblebee, let me warn you, don't touch me. I don't want any messages from your unreliable master. You are the unreliable servant of an unreliable master. It may be that Srimati Radharani purposefully addressed the bumblebee sarcastically in order to indirectly criticize the messenger Uddhava. Like the other gopis, Srimati Radharani saw that Uddhava's bodily features resembled Krishna's, but she also saw Uddhava as being equal to Krishna. Indirectly, therefore, she indicated that Uddhava was as unreliable as Krishna himself. Srimati Radharani wanted to give specific reasons why she was dissatisfied with Krishna and his messenger. So, two meanings to this particular exchange. One meaning is that Srimati Radharani actually was talking in madness to the bumblebee, just feeling separation from Krishna. The other meaning is that she was really indicating Uddhava, and she didn't want to directly commit an offense against Uddhava. So she was addressing the bumblebee instead of Uddhava, and she was expressing her dissatisfaction with Uddhava. She addressed the bumblebee, your master Krishna is exactly of your quality. You sit down on a flower, and after tasting a little honey, you immediately fly away and sit on another flower and taste. Similarly, only once did your master Krishna give me the chance to taste the touch of his lips, and then he left me altogether. I know also that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, who is always in the midst of a lotus flower, is constantly engaged in Krishna's service, but I do not know how she has become so captivated by Krishna, and why she is so much attached to Krishna, although she knows his actual character. Maybe she is so much captivated by Krishna's sweet words that she cannot understand his real character. As far as we are concerned, we are more intelligent than the goddess of fortune. We are not going to be cheated anymore by Krishna or his messengers. According to expert opinion, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is a subordinate expansion of Srimati Radharani. As Krishna has numerous expansions of Vishnumurti, so his pleasure potency, Radharani, has innumerable expansions of goddesses of fortune. Therefore, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmiji, is always eager to be elevated to the position of the gopis. Shanti Radharani continued, "You foolish bumblebee, you are trying to satisfy me and get a reward by singing the glories of Krishna, but it is a useless attempt. We gopis are bereft of all of our possessions. We are away from our homes and families. We know very well about Krishna. We know even more than you. So whatever you make up about him will be old stories to us. Krishna is now in the city and is better known as the friend of Arjuna. He now has many new girlfriends who are no doubt very happy in his association because of the lusty burning sensation of their breasts has been satisfied by Krishna. They are now happy. If you go there and glorify Krishna, they may be pleased to reward you. You are just trying to pacify me by your behavior as a flatterer, and therefore you have put your head under my feet. But I know the trick that you are trying to play. I know that you are a messenger coming from an even greater trickster, Krishna. Therefore, please leave me. I can understand that you are expert in reuniting two opposing parties, but at the same time, you must know that I cannot place my reliance upon you, nor upon your master Krishna for Krishna. Yet he did not feel any obligation in exchange. Internet connection, okay. At last he left us forlorn. Do you think we can place our faith in him again? We know that Krishna cannot live for a moment without the association of young women. That is his nature. He is finding difficulty in Mathura because he is no longer in the village among innocent coward girls. He is in aristocratic society and must be feeling difficulty in making friendships with other young girls. Perhaps you have come here to canvass again, or to take us there. But why should Krishna expect us to go there? He is greatly qualified to entice all other girls, not only in Vrindavan or Mathura, but all over the universe. His wonderfully enchanting smile is so attractive, and the movements of his eyebrows are so beautiful, that he can call for any woman from the heavenly middle or plutonic planets, that means lower planets. Even Mahalakshmi, the greatest of all goddesses of fortune, hankers to render him some service. In comparison to all these women of the universe, who are we? We are very insignificant. Of course, Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi, wants to be with Krishna, and she performs austerities, sometimes described for 100 or 1,000 years, in order to attain that position, but she's unable to attain it. And the reason is that she's unable to attain it is she's very attached to the opulent mode and the awe and reverent mode of worship. And one has to give that up in order to approach Krishna in the mood in Vrindavan. Krishna advertises himself as magnanimous, and he is praised by great saints. His qualifications would be perfectly utilized if he would only show us some mercy, for we are so much downtrodden and neglected by him. You poor messenger, you are only a less intelligent servant. You do not know much about Krishna, how grateful and hard-hearted he has been, not only in this life, but in his previous lives also. We have all heard this from our grandmother Purnamasi. Of course, Purnamasi is Yogamaya, expansion of Yogamaya. She has informed us that Krishna was born in a Kshatriya family previous to this birth and was known as Ramachandra. In that birth, instead of killing Bali, an enemy of his friend, in the manner of a Kshatriya, he killed him just like a hunter. A hunter takes a secure hiding place and then kills an animal without facing it. So Lord Ramchandra, as a Kshatriya, should have fought with Bali face to face. But instigated by his friend, he killed him from behind a tree. Thus he deviated from the religious principles of a Kshatriya. Also, he was so attracted by the beauty of Sita that he converted Surpanaka, the sister of Ravana, into an ugly woman by cutting off her nose and ears. Surpanaka proposed an intimate relationship with him, and as a Kshatriya, he should have satisfied her. But he was so henpecked that he could not forget Sita Devi and converted Surpanaka into an ugly woman. Before that birth as a Kshatriya, he took birth as a Brahmin boy known as Vamanadev and asked charity from Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj was so magnanimous Then he gave him whatever he had, and yet Krishna, as Vamanadev, ungratefully arrested him just like a crow and pushed him down to the Patala kingdom. We all know about Krishna and how ungrateful he is. But here is the difficulty. In spite of his being so cruel and hard-hearted, it is very difficult for us to give up talking about him. And it is not only we who are unable to give up this talk, but great sages and saintly persons also engage in talking about him. We Gopis of Vrindavan do not want to make any more friendships with this blackish boy, but we do not know how we shall be able to give up remembering and talking about his activities. Since Krishna is absolute, his so-called unkind activities are as relishable as his kind activities. Therefore, saintly persons and great devotees like the Gopis cannot give up Krishna in any circumstance. Lord Chaitanya therefore prayed, and this is the last verse of the Shikshashtakam, Krishna, you are free and independent in all respects. You can either embrace me or crush me under your feet, whatever you like. You may make me broken-hearted by not letting me see you throughout my whole life, but you are my only object of love. Wow. In my opinion, Srimati Radharani continued, no one should hear about Krishna, but as soon as a drop of the nectar of his transcendental activities is poured into the ear, one immediately rises above the duality of attraction and rejection. That means the duality of this world, not being attracted or repulsed by anything in this world. Being completely freed from the contamination of material attachment, one gives up attachment for this material world, including family, home, wife, children, everything else materially dear to every person, including the body. Being deprived of all material acquisitions, one makes his relatives and himself unhappy. Then he wanders in search of Krishna, either as a human being or another species of life, even as a bird, and voluntarily accepts the profession of a mendicant. It is very difficult to actually understand Krishna, his name, his qualities, his form, his pastimes, his paraphernalia, and his entourage. Srimati Radharani continued to speak to the black messenger of Krishna. Please do not talk anymore about Krishna. It is better to talk about something else. We are already doomed, like the black-spotted she-deer in the forest who are enchanted by the sweet musical vibration of the hunter. In the same way, we have been enchanted by the sweet words of Krishna and by thinking of the rays of his toenails again and again. We are becoming more and more lusty for his association. Therefore, I request you, do not talk of Krishna anymore. These talks of Radharani with the bumblebee messenger, including her accusing Krishna in so many ways, and at the same time expressing her inability to give up talking about him, are signs of the topmost transcendental ecstasy called Mahabhava. The ecstatic Mahabhava manifestation is possible only in the persons of Radharani and her associates. Great acharyas like Srila Rupa Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur have analyzed these Mahabhava speeches of Srimati Radharani and described their different varieties such as Udgurna, or bewilderment, and Japa Prati Japa, or talking in different ways. These are the signs of Ujjvala Rasa, that means the conjugal rasa, or the brightest jewel of love of God. While Radharani was talking with the bee and the bee was flying hither and thither, it all of a sudden disappeared from her sight. She was in full mourning due to separation from Krishna and felt ecstasy by talking with the bee. But as soon as the bee disappeared, she became almost mad, thinking that the messenger bee might have returned to Krishna to inform him all about her talking against him. Krishna must be very sorry to hear it, she thought. In this way, she was overwhelmed by another type of ecstasy. In the meantime, the bee, flying hither and thither, appeared before her again. She thought, Krishna is still kind to me, in spite of the messengers carrying disruptive messages. He is so kind that he has again sent the bee to take me to him. Srimati Radharani was very careful this time not to say anything against Krishna. So she actually thought the bee was the messenger of Krishna. My dear friend, I welcome you, she said. Krishna is so kind that he has again sent you. Krishna is so kind and affectionate to me that he has fortunately sent you back in spite of your carrying my message against him. All good fortune to you, my dear friend. Now you may ask from me whatever you want. I shall give you anything because you are kind to me. You have come to take me to Krishna because he is not able to come here being surrounded by new girlfriends in Mathura. But you are a tiny creature. How can you take me there? How will you be able to help me meet Krishna while he is taking rest there with the goddess of fortune and embracing her to his chest? Never mind. Let us forget all these things about my going there or sending you. Please let me know how Krishna is faring in Mathura. Tell me if he still remembers his foster father, Nanda Maharaj, his affectionate mother, Yashoda, his coward friends, and his poor friends like us, the Gopis. I am sure he must sometimes sing about us who served him just like maidservants without any payment. Is there any possibility that Krishna will come back and place his Aguru-scented hand on our heads? Please put all these inquiries to Krishna. Uddhava was standing near, and he heard Radharani talking in this way, as if she had become almost mad for Krishna. He was exceedingly surprised at how the Gopis were accustomed to thinking of Krishna constantly in that topmost ecstasy of Mahabhava love. He had brought a message in writing from Krishna, and now he wanted to present it before the Gopis just to pacify them. He said, "My dear Gopis, your mission of human life is now successful. You are all wonderful devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you are eligible to be worshipped by all kinds of people. You are worshipable throughout the three worlds because your minds are wonderfully absorbed in the thought of Vasudeva Krishna. He is the goal of all pious activities and ritualistic performances, such as giving charity, rigidly following the austerity of vows, undergoing severe penances, and igniting the fire of sacrifice. He is the purpose behind chanting different mantras, reading the Vedas, controlling the senses, and concentrating the mind in meditation. These are some of the many different processes for self-realization and attainment of perfection of life. But actually they are meant only for realizing Krishna and dovetailing oneself in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the last instruction of the Bhagavad Gita also. Although there are descriptions of different processes of self-realization, at the end Krishna recommends that one give up everything and simply surrender unto him. All other processes are meant for teaching one how to surrender ultimately unto the lotus feet of Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita also says that this surrendering process is completed by a sincere person after executing the process of self-realization in wisdom and austerity for many births. Mohanam janmanamante janmamam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sadurlabha. Bhagavad Gita says after many, many births and deaths, one who is actually in knowledge surrenders to Krishna. Since the perfection of such austerity was completely manifested in the lives of the Gopis, Uddhava was fully satisfied upon seeing their transcendental position. He continued, "My dear Gopis, the mentality you have developed in relationship with Krishna is very, very difficult to attain, even for great sages and saintly persons. You have attained the highest perfectional stage of life. It is a great boon for you that you have fixed your minds upon Krishna and have decided to have Krishna only, giving up your families, homes, relatives, husbands, and children for the sake of the Supreme Personality. Because your minds are now fully absorbed in Krishna, the Supreme Soul, universal love has automatically developed in you. I think myself very fortunate that I have been favored by your grace to see you in this situation." When Uddhava said that he had a message from Krishna, the Gopis were more interested in hearing the message than in hearing about their exalted position. They did not very much like being praised for their high position. They showed their anxiety to hear the message Uddhava had brought from Krishna. Uddhava said, "My dear Gopis, I am especially deputed to carry this message to you, who are such great and gentle devotees. Krishna has specifically sent me to you because I am his most confidential servitor." Uddhava did not deliver to the Gopis the written message brought from Krishna, but he personally read it to them. The message was very gravely written, so that not only the Gopis but all empiric philosophers might understand how pure love of God is intrinsically integrated with all the different energies of the Supreme Lord. From the Vedic information, it is understood that the Supreme Lord has multi-energies. Purusha Shakti Vividaiva Shuyate, and the rest of that is Swabhavaki Jnana Balakriyacha. That's CC Majulila 1365. Also, the Gopis were such intimate personal friends of Krishna that while he was writing the message for them, he was so moved that he could not write distinctly. Uddhava, as a student of Brahaspati, had very sharp intelligence, so instead of handing over the written message, he thought it wise to read it personally and explain it to them. Uddhava continued, "These are the words of the personality of God. My dear Gopis, my dear friends, please know that separation between ourselves is impossible at any time, at any place, or under any circumstances, because I am all-pervading." This all-pervasiveness of Krishna is explained in the Bhagavad Gita in both the 9th and 7th chapters. In the 9th chapter, Krishna is described as all-pervasive in his impersonal feature. What was that? Mayatatam idam sarvam jagadabhyakta murtina. Everything rests in him, but he is not personally present everywhere. And in the 7th chapter, it is stated that the 5 gross elements, earth, water, fire, air, and the sky, and the 3 subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and ego, are all his inferior energies. That's a bhumi rupo and low vayu coming out like that. But that there's another superior energy, aparayam ethos twanyam prakritim vidi me puram jivabhutam baho yayedam jagata jagat. But there is another superior energy which is called the living entity. The living entities are also directly part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is both the material and efficient cause of everything, and I explained what that meant. In other words, the ingredients come from Krishna, and Krishna causes the ingredients to interact and form different forms and energies and everything like that. He is always intermingled with everything as cause and effect. Not only the Gopis, but all living entities are always inseparably connected with Krishna in all circumstances. The Gopis, however, are perfectly and thoroughly in cognition of this relationship with Krishna, whereas the living entities under the spell of Maya, the illusory energy, are forgetful of Krishna and think themselves separate identities having no connection with him. Love of Krishna or Krishna consciousness is therefore the perfection of real knowledge and understanding things as they are. Our minds can never be vacant. The mind is constantly occupied with some kind of thought, and the subject matter of such thought cannot be outside the 8 elements of Krishna's energy unless one is a devotee. That's really important. One who knows this philosophical aspect of all thoughts is actually a wise man, and he surrenders unto Krishna. The Gopis are the epitome of this perfectional stage of knowledge. They are not simple mental speculators. Their minds are always in Krishna. The mind is nothing but the energy of Krishna. Actually, any person who can think, feel, and will cannot be separated from Krishna. But he may think he's separated from Krishna. But the stage in which he can understand his eternal relationship with Krishna is called Krishna consciousness. And of course, that begins with Jivara Swarupohoy, Nitya Krishna Das, that I am Krishna's servant. And then it culminates in understanding one's ras, or relationship with Krishna. And that culmination includes being a servant. The Gopis are the best servants. The diseased condition in which he cannot understand his eternal relationship with Krishna is the contaminated stage, or Maya. Since the Gopis are on the platform of pure transcendental knowledge, their minds are always filled with Krishna consciousness. For example, as there is no separation between fire and air, there's no separation between Krishna and the living entities. Interesting example. When the living entities forget Krishna, they are not in their normal condition. As for the Gopis, because they're always thinking of Krishna, they're on the absolute stage of perfection in knowledge. The so-called empiric philosophers. Empiric means philosophers who deal with the material or things that they can see, empirical knowledge. Things you can see, things you can touch, or things you can measure, or things that you can see, touch, and measure with your scientific instruments. Or you think you're feeling or touching or measuring. You think you're doing it, but actually you're not. Anyway, that's another subject matter. The so-called empiric philosophers sometimes think that the path of bhakti is meant for the less intelligent, but unless the so-called man of knowledge comes to the platform of bhakti, his knowledge is certainly impure and imperfect. Actually, the stage of forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with Krishna is separation. But that is also illusory because there is no such separation. The Gopis were not situated in that illusory condition of life, so even from the philosophical point of view, for them there was no separation. Uddhava continued reading Krishna's message. Nothing is separate from me. The whole cosmic manifestation is resting on me and is not separate from me. Therefore, before the creation, I was existing. This is confirmed in the Vedic literature. Eko Narayana Asin no Brahma Nashana. Before creation, there's only Narayan, there was no Brahma, and no Shiva. Aham mevasam eva gre nanyad yad sarasat puram paschadham yadi tachad yovichisheta shoshmiyaham. That's the first of the Chatushloki verses in the Bhagavatam, where Krishna says, before the creation there was I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. During the creation there was I, and after the dissolution I continue to be there. The whole cosmic manifestation is manipulated by the three modes of material nature. It is said that Brahma, the incarnation of the quality of passion, created this universe. But Brahma is the secondary creator. The original creator is Narayan. This is confirmed by Shankaracharya, Narayana Parovyaktat. And what that means is translated by Prabhupada. Narayana is transcendental, beyond this cosmic creation. In this way, nothing within this cosmic manifestation is separate from Krishna, although Krishna's original form is not visible in everything. In other words, everything is Krishna's energy, Krishna is in every atom, Krishna is controlling everything, and Krishna is in the hearts of everyone, and especially he's in the hearts of his devotees. Krishna creates, maintains, and annihilates the whole cosmic manifestation by expanding himself in different incarnations. Here Prabhupada is talking about the Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Shirodakshay Vishnu. Everything is Krishna, and everything depends on Krishna, but he is not perceived in the material energy, and therefore it is called Maya, or illusion. In the spiritual energy, however, Krishna is perceived at every step in all circumstances. This perfectional stage of understanding is represented by the Gopis. As Krishna is always aloof from the cosmic manifestation, although it is completely dependent on him, so a living entity is also completely aloof from his material conditioned life, although the material body has the basis of spiritual existence. In the Bhagavad Gita, the whole cosmic manifestation is accepted as the mother of the living entities, and Krishna is the father. As the father impregnates the mother by injecting a living entity within the womb, Krishna connects all the living entities into the womb of material nature. They come out in different bodies according to their different fruit of activities, but in all circumstances, the living entity is aloof from this material conditioned life. If we simply study our own bodies, we can understand how a living entity is always aloof from this bodily engagement. Every action of the body takes place by the interaction of the three modes of material nature. We can see at every moment many changes taking place in our bodies, but the spirit soul is aloof from all changes. I can definitely see all the changes taking place in my body. That is a fact. As you get older, oh my God. Don't remind me. One can neither create nor annihilate nor interfere with the actions of material nature. The living entity is therefore entrapped by the material body and conditioned in three stages, namely while awake, sleep, and unconscious. The mind acts throughout all three conditions of life. The living entity in sleeping or dreaming conditions. It is concluded, therefore, that under certain circumstances he accepts something as real, and under other circumstances he accepts the very same thing as unreal. These matters are the subject of study for the empiric philosopher or the Sankhya yogi to come to the right conclusion. Sankhya yogis undergo severe austerities and penances, practicing control of the senses and renunciation. Of course, the word Sankhya means to count. In other words, to analyze, just to take it in an indirect meaning, to analyze the material elements, to understand how the soul is different from the material elements. And Krishna does this, presents a lot of Sankhya philosophy, as we were speaking last Sunday in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Sankhya philosophy means basically talking about how the soul is different from the body, how the soul is undergoing reincarnation, how the soul changes bodies in this lifetime, dehinusmin yata dehi koram jovidam jara, and in the same way changes bodies at the time of death. So that's all Sankhya philosophy. So we have some Sankhya philosophy, but we don't practice Sankhya yoga. Sankhya yoga would be primarily analyzing the material elements. The traditional Vedic material elements are the eightfold inner Prakriti Ashtada: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then analyzing the senses, the sense objects, the totality, and ultimately coming to the point of understanding we're different from all those things. Okay, so we are going to stop here in the middle of the chapter. And some philosophy here. And now we are going to stop sharing and allow you all to ask questions about the subject matter that we have been reading about. Don't ask questions about anything else. Hold on a second. Okay, that'll allow you to unmute. So you can, let me pull up the chat window, which I didn't have open. You can type in the chat window, or you can unmute. Rakesh, all right, it has to be about this class.
What are the 8 subject matters of mind?
The what? Where's that mentioned in today's class?
Today's class, 8 things of mind.
You said it. I said it has to be part of today's class.
Today's class, you said the 8 things of mind, and you said we are transcendental because we are in bhakti, so it doesn't apply to us. In the class, the Gopis said the mind is always absorbed in 8 things.
Mind is always absorbed in different subjects in this material, in the 8 material elements, and in the 3 modes of material nature, and Maya. And if one's a devotee, a good devotee, then the mind, that's not actually true for someone who's Krishna conscious. That's a direct explanation of what was mentioned there. Okay. Who else has a question?
I have another question, Gurudev.
Okay. No, we have someone else. Someone else had a question here. Give someone else an opportunity. Okay, Sam.
Hare Krishna. Is Sankhya philosophy has to do with Buddhism?
No, Sankhya philosophy is not Buddhism. There are atheistic versions of, the 8 elements. What I just mentioned. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Sankhya basically means to analyze the material world, and in that analysis of the material world, to understand that you are transcendental. So, but there's atheistic Sankhya philosophy too. There's a theistic Kapila Dev and an atheistic Kapila Dev. The theistic Kapila Dev is an incarnation of Krishna, and the atheistic one is just like a rascal. So Sankhya can be applied either atheistically or theistically, but the actual term Sankhya means to count or to analyze the material elements, and to ultimately come to the conclusion that there's something beyond the material elements. Some of the listings of the Sankhya elements include the the soul and the super soul. There's different listings. Sometimes it's 24, sometimes 25, sometimes 26. But it's not necessarily atheistic and not necessarily theistic, but our application of it is definitely theistic. And if you're interested in more of the theistic Sankhya Yoga process, which is really interesting, you can read the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about Lord Kapiladev's instructions in Sankhya Yoga. Okay? Who else has a question? Anybody else have a question? Gopal, you have a question.
Please accept my obeisance, Shri Gurudev. You spoke about Ram Vijay earlier. May I ask a question about the Ramayana?
What about the Ramayana?
So you've said on several occasions that it disturbs you hearing about Mother Sita being sent to the forest. And
Yeah.
also, we noticed that one very common emotion and feeling that human beings have, and even we see other animals, have feelings of guilt and shame. So
Yeah.
knowing that we have these feelings and knowing that everything that we have must come from Krishna, does Krishna, under these circumstances, when he does something that disturbs his devotees, does he feel some version of this?
Well, under Yoga Maya, he may, there's no feeling. There's no feeling that's actually not experienced by Krishna except for material pain. But there are certain circumstances Krishna may just feel guilty that he left the gopis. And actually, that's described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Krishna's feeling really bad. If you read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Krishna feels really guilty that he left the gopis. And he thinks the only reason I can't go back there is because it's going to cause him more pain because they're going to be waiting for me to leave again.
Mm. Thank you, Guru.
So certainly, you can't say that Krishna is devoid of any particular feeling. He's the source of all feelings. But when Krishna experiences that particular feeling, it's a source of happiness for him. Just like the gopis, when they're experiencing the separation from Krishna, although it's painful, it's ecstatic simultaneously, because that feeling of separation from Krishna means they are with Krishna, because by the feelings of separation, they're thinking of Krishna more deeply, and Krishna is non-different from his thought, Krishna is non-different from his holy name, Krishna is non-different from his pastimes. All right?
Thank you.
Here's a question in the chat window. We say Krishna is everywhere, and he is saying, I'm everywhere, yet we say the gopis were enjoying separation mellow. They were seeing Krishna in that everything, yet departed. How was that? Well, that's the reason they didn't see Krishna visually, but they felt the presence of Krishna. And just like, probably sometimes say it's more important to hear Krishna or hear Krishna's name. We see through our ears. So the gopis felt the presence of Krishna in that mood of separation, but they didn't, even though he was there, he wasn't manifest to their eyes or to their ears unless they were chanting Krishna's holy name. So how can we possibly see Krishna in everything? Well, for those of us who are in this material world, we can see to whom everything belongs. That's why we have this Isopanishad that Ishavashamidam sarvam yadkancha jagadan jagat tenajaktena bunjitha magritha kashasvidanam. Everything is owned and controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And people are given different quotas, personal quotas to use in a service, but it belongs to him. So that's one thing. One way we could see that if you're looking at someone's, let's say, we look at the airplane or the jet that's used by the President of the United States, Air Force One, And we look at it and remember the president, maybe. Because it belongs to him or is being used in his service. So when you see something that belongs, or see someone's car, you remember the person. That's how you see Krishna and everything, at least from one particular point of view. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena shantak shadaiva hridiyeshu vilogyanti yam shaima sundara machincha gunaswarupam govindamani purusham tamaham bhajami. One whose eyes are tinged with the salve of love of God, Anjana, he sees Krishna everywhere. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena. So one has to love Krishna and recognize that Krishna actually owns, controls, and is the source of everything. But that's, it's a little hard, because naturally when we're in illusion, we think that we can own, we can control, we may create something, and we're taking the credit for creating something. So it's hard, but we have to remember that, and Krishna gave the intelligence. It's like I'm looking at my computer right now. Krishna gave the intelligence in how to build that computer. Krishna gave the ingredients for that computer. Krishna gave the bodies to the living entities that created the computer or the factory or whatever. So everything comes from Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartate. As Krishna says, the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, I am the source of everything. And for me, the entire creation flows. Idmatva vajantipam buddhapava samamata. Machita magata prana buddhiyantas cha parasparam katyantas jamam nicham tushanchi cha ramanti cha. Okay, that's it for this evening. And tomorrow, hopefully, we will continue. Tomorrow here is Ekadashi. It's Pash Anakusha Ekadashi. And the reason I remember that is because it comes once a year. I was born on the Pash Anakusha Ekadashi. So, that means everybody, all the Vaishnavas, when I was born, were fascinating. Anyways, from rains. Okay, see everybody tomorrow, hopefully. Thank you very much for attending this class. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami